Excellence in the classroom, empowering parents, serving educators. That's the Arizona Department of Education. And this is Around the Horn, where we talk about all things education with Arizona Schools Chief Tom Horne. And welcome to the latest episode of Around the Horn, the Arizona Department of Education's podcast talking about all things education, not just in Arizona, but really everywhere, because so much of this applies to all the country. So we have, of course, Superintendent Tom Horne. We have Catherine Barrett, one of our great staff. And what you may not know about our superintendent is that he is a classically trained pianist, very good at what he does, and arts are something that are really close and near and dear to his heart. And that's what we're here to talk about, art. And why would we teach it? So Superintendent Horne, Catherine Barrett, welcome to Around the Horn.
So Catherine Barrett, I understand your friends call you Cat?
Yes.
May they call you Cat?
You may call me Cat.
You're the Associate Superintendent for Academic Achievement, correct?
Yes.
And as an Associate Superintendent, you're responsible for several different sections. And one of those sections is Title 4A, which is teaching students the arts. So maybe you can tell our audience why it's important to teach the arts.
Yes, so when we're teaching the arts, we're really talking what you're familiar with is the ability to achieve the different learning styles. And with the arts, it lowers the discipline in the classroom. So if, say, a student knows the piano, they're more inclined to want to read and apply those notes and the abstract thinking into those sentence structures and linguistics. So as you play the piano, you're really interpreting the notes in the music, and then as our students are more involved and opened up to joining an art program or a music program, they see less discipline in the classroom, they see more creative thinking, and that Pandora's box is open in academics.
And you have a study that you want to refer to?
Yes, so I recently studied in this magazine called Mind Shift in Educators, and it was an article written by Jill Brochet, and she talks specifically about an artistic potpourri, and that would include like different types of programs taking place at a Title I school, or any school for that matter, but that they would be offering such as piano, dance, the strings, orchestra. And a lot of the teachers have seen, and according to this article, less disruptive classrooms because the students are more focused. They want to get to that very special area, like taking the art class or the dance movement class. And therefore, when they come back to the academic setting, they're more disciplined, able to study and concentrate more.
Is it because when you play the piano or an instrument, you see instant results, good, bad, or indifferent, and that maybe spurs the mind to want to improve?
I would think so. Mr. Horne, Superintendent Horne, would you believe so?
Yeah, well, I've read articles about and studies about how students who have music lessons early in childhood end up doing better in mathematics later on than students who don't. And there are two possible reasons for this. They don't know which of the two it is. One is that music develops the right side of the brain. A lot of what we do that's linear is the left side of the brain. It's best to have a balanced brain. And secondly, as you started to mention, musical notation involves abstract reasoning. You see a note on the third space and you know to push the C on the piano or play the C on the violin or whatever. And that's a kind of abstract reasoning that helps the students later with more advanced abstract reasoning.
Now, Kat, you came not too long ago out of the district world. Do we see enough arts education in the schools?
I think the teacher would want to say we want to see more. And here at the Department of Education, I'm learning more about the Title IV and working with Associate Superintendent Michelle Udall. And we have two sides of Title IV, Side A and Side B. And like Superintendent Horne has pointed out, Side A being the musical artistic performance side, teachers would want to see more of that money allocated and infused in their classrooms and even their master schedules, I would think. And so we're here to help them, support them, and listen to them, and provide evidence such as this that we're seeing in the field so that we can have those academic outcomes and less discipline in the classroom because the students are focused, want to be there. And also what was interesting in the article was that attendance increases. So when we have those students there in class as a classroom teacher, we know that we can give that consistent foundation.
And attendance is a big problem in the world today, isn't it not?
It is a huge problem.
Because you can't teach kids who aren't there.
Right.
What barriers have we found to increasing the instruction of arts? I know money is always an issue, of course, for everything, but are there artificial barriers and such that we have to overcome?
One that comes to my mind right away would be master schedules and how we're designing and using those instructional.
So for those who may not understand the minutia, what do you mean by master schedule? What for the layman, what would that mean? How would you describe it?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So a master schedule would be those bell-to-bell minutes. So
Mhm.
how a schedule looks in, say, a K through 6 setting or a post-secondary setting, the start of the school day, the break of the school day, and are these electives such as language arts, performance, and music classes being put at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. So you really have to be creative with your site councils, and those would be like the parents and the teachers associations working together to find out how to maximize the most.
So there really has to be a lot of buy-in from the community and the educators and the students.
I would absolutely say so, and that's why the department exists, is to provide that support, and if there's a creative solution.
Is drama also considered part of the arts in this program?
Yes, it is, and it's so important because that carries over, like you say, and infuses reading in the classroom with readers' theater. The students like to hear the fluency, and with drama being offered as an elective, that would easily interweave into those language arts classes.
Someone who's into drama likes to read plays, right?
They do. Exactly.
And they learn elocution, they learn not to be shy, they learn to communicate with audiences. Those are all important, what we would call academic skills to have.
Yes, they are.
Superintendent, you've talked often in your latest tenure here that your number one goal really is to raise academic outcomes here in Arizona. What, if you could put a percentage on it or some sort of value, what value would you place on arts with that goal? Because obviously we've heard it does have an effect on academics. So how much effort should we put into this, or how much time and energy?
I would probably have a skewed view because, as you pointed out, I'm an amateur classical pianist, and so that's one of my passions, and so I would give it a very high importance, and also because if you're good in the arts, you're better in your academics.
Mm-hmm.
Arts are not a distraction from academics. It requires a time period, but it sustains academics, especially with math. Students who've done music are better with math.
And Kat, you mentioned Title I schools early on, and for those who may not be aware, Title I schools are schools that have a higher proportion of people who are economically disadvantaged. Do we see a disparity? I would hope not intentionally, but do we see a disparity where arts are not emphasized because of maybe other factors, financial and so forth, in the Title I schools? And we need to address that if that's the case, correct?
Correct. You're correct. We do see, and I think that disparity becomes more of having the knowledge to apply for their title grant money and to draw that grant money down. And a lot of times, like Superintendent Horne is adamant on doing, is cutting the red tape right now. We need to keep cutting that red tape so that our Title I schools are aware of this particular grant and reach out for us for the support and assistance and hand-holding that we do to get them this grant money.
So maybe you should explain how the red tape developed, because you have certain requirements from the federal government, right?
Correct.
And then over the years, some of my predecessors have added additional information that they wanted to have, but instead of sending out an email asking for the information, they've added that to the grants so that they become so complicated some schools don't want to bother to apply. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so to a parent or a teacher that's out there, even behind the classroom desk, the best way I can explain it is the previous administration would require documents and artifacts for us to upload or to share. And so that would be additional prep time that teachers were not getting paid for but would have to complete and get this to the Department of Education to have that money drawn down. Under the new administration, with one of the core initiative being customer service excellence and empowering parents, when we get phone calls and saying, help us get this money to the classroom and help us design this particular Pandora box lesson with the strings or the arts or performance, we're able to help them and not require anything that's not federally or state mandated to be attached to that. And the previous administration, additional documents were required. And that would cause a teacher such as myself to spend up to 2 or 3 hours beyond contract time finding those documents, uploading that pre or post test to show that there was a positive result. And that would be overburdensome. It would even be overburdensome, say, to their administration. And so a lot of times an administrator might pass that buck down to a teacher, such as myself, to take off their plate. And so as that was trickling down, it became harder and harder for that money to reach the teachers and to reach the classroom, and ultimately, your goal, the students. And so we've got to get the money there. And under Mr. Horne's administration, like I keep emphasizing, down in Title I currently, we have excellent directors that are cutting the red tape. And if it's not federally, not state regulated, we don't need that documentation. We need to get the money to your classroom and help you get that project going.
And do you want to explain your own role in simplifying these forms so that schools will apply for the money they're entitled to?
Yeah, as a team, I would say we're all working together. We are taking the burden off what's called a comprehensive needs assessment that a school has to complete. In the previous administration, it was approximately up to 128 questions, and we have it down to, I want to say 18 or 19. It's still in the draft stage. We work with a committee, as you're familiar with.
So let's reemphasize. We've gone from 128 or so questions that educators need to answer in order to just do their job and get their schools operating the way they should be. We've chopped that down to about 18 or so.
Yes.
So we are definitely reducing artificial barriers, cutting that red tape.
Yeah, and we're listening to the voices out in the field, which is so important. That's why I emphasize this is in an approximation stage right now, but it's going to be less burdensome. And we currently presented it to the Committee of Practitioners recently when we were in Flagstaff, and there was a sense of overjoy and relief. And they were literally texting each other in their federal director's program saying, this is going to be amazing. And that was so refreshing to hear, because when we have less burden on those federal directors and less burden being pushed down with paperwork, the more that's going to reach the students, the teachers, and ultimately that classroom where you're going to see academic outcomes.
Could you explain the committee you referred to?
Yeah, thank you. It's the Committee of Practitioners, which is the largest, I've been told, in AD history. We have 33 current members on it. That
Are
is
they
statewide.
teachers?
We have 2 teachers, I believe, a lot of federal directors.
Federal director would be someone in a school or a school district who's directed to obtain federal funding.
Correct. Their goal is to sit at the district office and make sure that that federal money is being drawn down and then given out to their governing boards to distribute. And so we're just working really hard on that.
So is it correct that we've had as many as 100 schools who don't apply for funds to which they're entitled under federal law because the things have been too complicated?
Yes, a lot of the schools, from what we're hearing in our grants management, are telling us that it's just too difficult for them and that there's many hula hoops to run through. And because we've made those hula hoops in the past, we've got to figure out a way to get them to get their money.
And are we also encouraging schools to be sure that they apply to the money for which they're entitled? Because after all, that money is intended to help the students do better academically, and it's a tragedy if it's available and the students don't get that benefit.
Yeah, that's almost two-way prong right there that we're dealing with. We're updating a lot of business contact addresses that have not been updated in the agency to contact the correct people.
The business department of the district?
Yes, the finance department. So we're obtaining that because a lot of times at a district level, a federal district program person might leave, and that doesn't get updated and reported to us.
And small districts can't afford a federal district. All they have is a superintendent and maybe a couple of other people, right, in the small district.
So suffice it to say, we are looking at ways to make sure that hard-earned taxpayer dollars, federal, state, and otherwise, are getting to where they can be used, and those drain clogs are being eliminated. And those drain clogs are these incredibly ridiculous, burdensome things, paperwork and so forth, that we're cutting back on. If we were, as we look at winding down here and talking again about the arts specifically, is there a call to action that we could have for the public and parents who are interested? Maybe you've got a mom and a dad or grandparent or whomever sees that their child has some ability or interest in the arts. How do we is there a call for action for them to do something? What steps should they take to really make that flower in their child's life?
They should definitely attend a governing board meeting. And if they can't make it there in person, and I've dealt with those parents directly, they should definitely write an email to the governing board members within their district. And I would even say contact Superintendent Horne and contact him directly so that we can figure out what we can do to help those students flourish.
And if you're in a situation where maybe the school and the district are really good at this, but the kid just doesn't know where to go, just ask the teacher, ask a principal, just find somebody who knows what they're talking about?
Yeah, it's often difficult for parents because they feel like sometimes they might get a runaround, but they should definitely approach their principal and go to the principal, maybe their homeroom teacher, a teacher they feel comfortable with. But ultimately, I would say it's time to light up the school boards. Sorry.
Before we finish, is there anything else you want to say about what we're doing as a department to encourage students to take more arts, which in the long run, not only it makes them able to appreciate beauty, which is an important part of the educated person, but makes them better at academics?
Yeah, we're definitely sharing with our school improvement teams, and that's under Associate Michelle Udall. We're showing them different pilot programs that have worked. We have a bunch of directors that are reaching out to schools to call them. And we have some newsletters. I know we have one going out, AZ Edition, to the schools. So
it's a quarterly thing, so we're always updating things in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, continue to read and check out our webpage.
Yes.
You want to tell them quickly what else you're responsible for besides the arts?
Oh, goodness. I am responsible for character education, Title I, which is huge. And
Title I is for poorer schools.
Yes, and then I'm also doing 21st Century. And that is a after-school program that we do. And what else am I doing? I am kind of doing the county superintendent's PD. So for the
PD stands for what?
Oh, I'm sorry, professional development. Okay.
So you're working at least 12 hours a week, right? Something like that.
Hey, I'm happy.
All right.
This is where a good team is together. We really are a good team. You put together some dynamite people. That
she is definitely one of the hardest working people among many hardworking people here at the agency. All right. Well, Superintendent Horne, Catherine Barrett, thank you. Thanks again for joining us for Around the Horn. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining Arizona Schools Chief Tom Horne for Around the Horn. For more information about public education in Arizona, please go to azed.gov. And you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We'll see you next time. Around the Horn.